Turns out you can change the patch of a sample pad, the SPD, the SPD-SX Pro, all from an iPad. So you can have the list of every single patch you have and just change to it with the tap of a button. And it's really, really easy. So here's how you do it. This whole setup is powered by a piece of software called TouchOSC. You can find the download link in the description down below, or if you literally just Google TouchOSC, it's the first thing that comes up. Now, when you're on this page, you can have a read if you want to, but what we're looking for is the Get TouchOSC button, and then, as you'll see, here's everything you need. Now, the software is free, but every time you open it, it comes up with a little pop-up that says, hey, please buy a license that supports us, which is fair enough. They do make an incredible piece of software. But anyway, download the desktop version that you need. So in my case, I'm using a Mac, so I'll download the Mac one, but if you're using Windows or Linux, you can download those too. Now, the second thing you'll need is the TouchOSC bridge, and this is what connects the iPad to either some software or the laptop to the iPad, that sort of thing. Now, if you're connecting directly to your SPD, you probably don't need this software, but it's one of those things that runs in the background and it's just really useful to have. So it's free, and where you find it is actually on the TouchOSC page, but you hit the resources button, TouchOSC bridge, again, Mac or Windows. And then finally, the last thing to download is the TouchOSC app, whether you're using that on iPhone, iPad, Android, whichever one, doesn't really matter, whichever pad you're using to control it, download it. Here is the one that you want to get. Now, on the App Store, there is a TouchOSC Mark 1. That is the old version. We don't want that. It's just TouchOSC, as you can see here. Mine says open because I've already downloaded it, but download it and then we're good to go. So as a quick heads up, I'm creating this in a really roundabout way. So my method for creating this is basically creating it using the laptop, sending it to an iPad, plug the iPad into my laptop, use Ableton as a through, and then plugging the SPD-SX USB-B into the laptop, and then that's how it's being sent MIDI. So it's going iPad, laptop, SPD-SX. You don't need to do that. You can do this with just a USB MIDI cable. If you're using an iPad Pro, then you can just get a USB-C to MIDI. It's easy as that. There's a link in the description if you do want to buy one. It means you can skip out the laptop completely. You can just use the TouchOSC software, send it direct to your SPD-SX, and you don't have to worry about a laptop on stage. If you want to download the patch that I make in this video, again, you can find the link down below. But this is TouchOSC. Now you'll notice that it matches the same on a laptop than it does on an iPad, which is really, really nice. So you can build everything without a laptop if you want to, but in this case, I just prefer using a laptop because it's easier. So you'll have this grid in the center, and that's your sort of screen, that's your workplace. In the box, I'm just gonna create a button. Now I'm just going to drag this and make it as big or as small as I like. In my case, I'm going to go to like 200 by 200, 180, 200, 200, 200. There we go, a box. Now this software is incredibly powerful and we are using it for basically the bare minimum, but it's nice to know how it generally works. On the right-hand side, we can see all of the parameters of it, including the document tree, which is where all of the layers sit within each other, the control of it, the color. Let's make it a nice green. That'll do. And it gets pretty ridiculous. But what we're looking for is the messages down here. We want to hit the little plus button, add a MIDI message, because that's what we're sending out from this button. And then we want to change this to a program change, channel 10 as a constant, and then the value, we want it to be a constant as well, and I'm going to keep that at 0. Now, why we want a program change is because the patches on the SPD-SX Pro and the SPD-SX, the little number in the top left, that's MIDI-able. So whichever number your patch is on, so for example, 1, then that's going to be the program change. Although saying that, for some reason, it's minus a number. So for example, patch 1 is actually 0 for program change. I don't know why it couldn't just start at 1, has to start at 0, but here we are. Now we changed the channel to 10 because the SPD-SX and the SPD-SX Pro listen in channel 10 unless you change that. I haven't for this video, and I presume you haven't either. If you have, just change the channel to whichever one you have set in the SPD-SX. We'll get to all of the SPD-SX MIDI in a second, but that's what we're sending out of TouchOSC to be received by the SPD. What I'm then going to do is I'm just going to create a text button where I'm going to remove the background, remove the corners because I want it to be nice and clean, and then change the text here to say, I think patch 1, my SPD is behind me, main kit, I believe is what it's called. There we go. Move that into like the middle of the button. And now we have a big button that says main kit and sends out the patch change to 0, which is our main kit. Now to get this on your iPad, this is where the bridge comes into play. What I would recommend is plugging in the USB-C into your Mac or your computer, or you can actually use an Ethernet cable. So you'd go Ethernet out of your laptop into a network switch and then another one into your iPad, and that's how they chat using the bridge. In this video, I'm just using the USB-C cable, but we will be using the bridge to connect to Ableton. So firstly, on your laptop, on your computer, hit this little Wi-Fi button in TouchOSC. You want to click onto server and then enable, because your laptop is your host, that's where you're creating it. And then switching over to your tablet, in my case, the iPad Pro, you can hit the same button in the top, and then you should see straight away, once you plugged in the USB cables and that sort of stuff, in my case, Harry's MacBook Pro. Connect, and there we go. We've got the screen, the button that we've just made, and in this case, it's tappable. Because essentially you can edit everything on your laptop and it will auto update onto your tablet, in my case the iPad, and then you can test it live whilst you're editing it, which is really, really useful and why I like to use both. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to duplicate these buttons. So I've got 6 buttons, but at this point, use however many patches you want to change to. So if you've got 20 patches that you want to change to, create 20 buttons, and so on and so forth. In terms of the program change numbers, like I said, keep a note of the patch number that you want to change to. So for me, I'm just using patches 1 to 6, but yours might be different. Again, just look at the kit number on your SPD-SX or SPD-SX Pro at -1, and that is your value. There's a free Discord with this YouTube channel. If you have any questions about this video, please lob them in the Discord and I will be right there to help, as well as all of the other members, which is really nice. The link is down below. So here is the patch with 6 buttons. Now I've named these because these are the names of the first 6 patches on my SPD-SX. It's a mix of, oh no, they're all function band stuff. So there you go. Like I said, if you want this one specifically, the link is down below to download it. So that's TouchOSC created. It's on our iPad. The next thing is prepping the SPD. Now I mentioned earlier that I'm doing this the hard way, where I'm going through Ableton just to send MIDI through my laptop to the SPD. But if you have bought a USB to MIDI cable, just plug that into TouchOSC and then plug that into your SPD-SX or SPD-SX Pro, and you pretty much should be good to go. So firstly, the SPD-SX, we want to make sure it's in audio/MIDI mode if you're using the USB cable like me. So plug in a USB-B cable to the back, plug it into your laptop, then go to Menu, Setup, down to Option, and then change it to audio/MIDI. If you haven't downloaded the driver for this yet, head to the Roland website, the support, and download the audio/MIDI drivers. But if you've watched any of my other SPD-SX videos, then you probably already have this downloaded. Then the only other thing we need to do is make sure that the program changes on the SPD are receiving the MIDI, basically. So you can toggle this on or off. We want it on, so when we send MIDI to the SPD-SX, it knows to change the patch. To do this, you want to go to Menu, Setup, MIDI, and then it's the first option right at the top there, the PC TX/RX SW. You want to set that to on. And then you can just hit kit and go back to the beginning and you're pretty much good to go. That's all we need to change. Going back to your laptop, because the SPD is ready to receive MIDI now, we want to open the TouchOSC bridge and it'll just appear as a little B in the top if you're on Mac, or on the bottom right if you're on Windows. We don't need to do anything else. That's it. It's open. It's done. For this video, I'm using Ableton because it's the easiest thing to pass through MIDI, but you can use Logic, you can use Cubase, any DAW that you can receive MIDI, you're good to go. I'm just using Ableton, but it's the same steps. So in Ableton, I'm going to go to Live, to Settings, down to the Link Tempo MIDI, because I want to make sure that Ableton is seeing the TouchOSC bridge, and it has to be open for this point. As you can see, I've got loads of MIDI ins and outs, and you might not have as many, but I do a lot of stuff. What we're looking for is the TouchOSC bridge in. I've got track and remote, which means it'll be sending in and out, which isn't necessary, but I like to have them all on. And then same with out, track, remote. You can probably just have track on, but I have both. And then on a MIDI channel, I want MIDI in from TouchOSC bridge channel 10, because if you remember, that's the channel we're sending it out of. It's still on my iPad. So if I do the arm button, when I press a MIDI note, as you can see, we're receiving MIDI in, which is amazing. Now what I want to do is MIDI out to the SPD-SX channel 10. And now in theory, there we go. It's changing each kit to the patch. Now, if you didn't have Ableton and a laptop and that sort of stuff, when you plug in the MIDI cable, then it'll send it out of TouchOSC on the iPad, and it's way easier. But in this case, I don't need to buy a MIDI cable. I can just do it all through a bunch of connections. As I mentioned earlier, there's a free Discord. Check out the link down below. Everything you need is down below. And with that, that's how you control your SPD with an iPad.